It's me, Jennifer from Little Metal Foxes, and
Julia, also from Little Metal Foxes.
hi. So we have got our tool tips tonight because it's Tool Tip Tuesday. We've got some things to show you that are great tips for cleaning up the inside of rings. I have had so many people over the years, students and people at all levels, who are kind of like, I don't know what's the best way to like really get inside rings, because sometimes rings can be a little tricky
They're small.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you polish the inside?
Right.
Because people will take stuff to, the big buffers, and so they're trying to buff the big side, and then those the outside, and then those ring mandrels that fit onto the big buffing units. I have had myself. I hate using those because I've had them crack me in the knuckles one too many times. And
they also tend to get stuck on the spindles.
And
I got one stuck on the spindle, and poor Julia Harrison, I think she had to like bring in the big tools to get it undone. So,
but I have seen students not be able to get it on correctly, and
so then
have them
it's not spinning.
And I've seen one actually come loose, and it wandered around and it bent the spindle because it just was like whack and like and ground it up. So don't like using those, but I really like doing mine by hand with my flex shaft, and I just have found that that's really a great way to do it.
It's not really by hand.
Not by hand, but using the flex shaft
tool.
Yes, and you can set up the flex shaft in a vise, which makes it really easy to sort of use it like a lathe or a tiny buffing machine. So that works really well. But what I wanted to show you guys and share with you is a few solutions that work great for the flex shaft to be able to polish, sand, and clean up the inside of the rings in a way that is a little less expensive than getting a big buffing unit. Takes up less room, and if you've already got a flex shaft, it makes it pretty easy to be able to adapt it, and use these tools to clean up the inside. So yeah, you've made a few rings lately.
I have.
What?
I made the Foxy Box Ring.
Look at that! I love this part. Wait for it. What? Yeah,
that was a last minute addition. Sometimes those are the best part.
I love the box rings. So this was a fun class. I know you guys did some really cool little box rings, and box rings are really kind of fun because you get to really work with hollow forms, and they usually have some kind of challenging shapes to them that allow you to bend and shape and mold and solder.
You get to bring some a smorgasbord of skills to the table when you make a box ring.
Yeah, it's true. And it's just, and this is one of those things that has a lot of those compound curves that make it difficult to like really get into these areas and clean it up easily. I mean, and you can't do it with a big buffing unit. It just really doesn't work very well. Yeah. So,
but I did use my flex shaft for this one. I tend to do a lot of stuff by hand. Jennifer's really more the flex shaft queen because she works in production more. True. And so I tend to do stuff more by hand, but this I definitely use the flex shaft for.
Yeah.
And I used one of the drum mandrels that you have, and then I also used the split mandrel. Yeah. So,
well, and some of the oh, hello everybody. Some people really like, they usually sort of get started with some of the some of the little drum things, little sanding drums like this, which are great. But they're, they're cheap, they're easy, and they're usually really coarse. And these are usually designed by Dremel. Right. And
if you buy a Dremel tool, it will come with a certain number of attachments. Right. This is always one of them.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they usually come in a couple of different sizes. This is one of the bigger ones. It's about 1 inch. There's usually like, 3/8, a 1/2 inch, and then 1 inch. And they do have a couple of different sanding things. But they are
really coarse.
They're really coarse, and it's great for softer material.
80 grit or something. Yeah. I mean, this is like, it looks like beach sand.
Right.
Right.
And one of the other things about this, do you have a screwdriver?
I do.
She has a screwdriver. That was a trick question. I just wanted the screen for myself.
You wanted the screen for yourself. Here you go. Actually, while I'm up, I'm going to grab something else. Yeah. It's a hand.
So a lot of people don't know how to change the drums on these, and it's pretty simple. It has like a little screw on the front, and you just undo the screw. And what happens when you undo the screw is the drum shrinks down, and it makes it easier for you to get the sanding belt off of the drum like that. So it just contracts when you undo the screw. So all you have to do, put the new drum back on, tighten the screw, and the screw expands. And that's how it works on all of the little rubber drums like this, little sanding drums. So these are fantastic for that, but again, they're really coarse. One of the jewelry solutions for this, she's back, is the split mandrel. And
right here.
Split mandrels, these are fantastic. Some people call them flap wheels.
Flap wheels?
Flap wheels. Because as they spin around, the sandpaper goes flap, 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 flap.
Yes.
And I actually, and some people will tape them, and some people will use rubber bands. I only use the rubber bands to store them. I don't use tape and rubber bands on these usually while I'm working with them. Mm-hmm. The reason is because with that flapping action, it smooths down
like the
surface and blends it. Mm-hmm. So if you're
it's
blending it. Exactly right. So if they're tight, especially if you've got it like a small mandrel like this one, and these do come in a variety of sizes. There's one that's like a size 5 ring. So it fits inside like a size 5 ring, which is really nice.
Which I don't have, and now I have to get those.
Yeah, they're awesome.
This is what happens when I watch tool tips, is then I have to go buy things.
True. So this one's fantastic because it's real small, and these are great for getting inside these little compound curves.
Yeah, I used it a lot for exactly that.
So this is great for stuff like this, and because the sandpaper flaps as it goes around, it's smoothing the surface. So on an uneven surface like this is great. If you have a small mandrel like this, it's wound tight and you're sanding really hard, the surface that you're going to get is going to meet the sanding surface that you're using, and so you'll end up with little divots in it. But if you let that flap around, it smooths everything down.
Safety tip.
And the other thing, real quick, if it's on the inside, it is great because it just sort of like expands to meet the hole.
Right.
So that's really fun. But yeah, safety tip.
Safety tip, especially for these, you tend to push down on these a lot when you're using them. And so you can see how long this is. This is actually really long, longer than it needs to be. And you really want to have the jaws of your flex shaft chuck right up against the base of the stem. And because the length of the shank is really long, like it will actually bottom out you need to cut this off, right? So you need to take like a diamond saw or something,
just trim it down
and trim it off, because you want it to fit all the way down into your chuck. The reason is that if you're applying pressure and it's sticking out like this, it can bend, and then it's this L-shaped thing that's flying around, and it's flailing at your jewelry.
I've
and
seen
your
somebody
hand.
do that one time too hard, and it broke it and shot it across the room.
Yeah.
So make sure you do have that all
Cut
the
it
way
off.
in.
Yeah, this is a Charles Luton Brain tip. You
Yeah.
know, Charles Luton Brain is great for those kinds of things, but you can see how long it is. Just cut it off.
And this is such a weak spot here too.
Yeah.
You know.
So you want the jaws of the flex shaft chuck to be all the way up to the base of the part of the mandrel that has the split in it.
Yeah. The nice thing about the split mandrels too is that they're extremely versatile and customizable.
Yep.
So not only can you use, whatever grit sandpaper you've got in here, so you can work your way from, 120, 220, 300, 400, 600, 800, but you can also use things like the micron sheets like this. So, and take it up to a full polish. You can even put in a little bit of, I'll use like chamois cloth and put a little rouge on it, or triple E if I'm doing that, and actually use it as your polishing tool.
Right.
So this becomes like one of the best polishing tools, and for the money.
Right.
Yeah, big bang for your buck, because it's only a couple of bucks and it's incredibly versatile. So this one
tool, you can slip anything into it. Yeah,
this one tool can do it all. So I usually have like the different sizes that I use for all kinds.
And now
of things.
I have to get this. This is probably
There's a medium and a large. It's awesome.
This is probably
a quarter inch. Yeah. So I think the set is.
This one is 3/16.
3/16.
Yeah. So this one is 3/16. And I bought several of them in a package kind of thing.
Yeah.
They tend to come as a collection,
Yeah.
But now I need this full set.
The full set is like a
sizes.
small, a medium, and a large. So
Oh my God,
it's awesome.
still my beating heart.
It's awesome. So, but let's just say, Julia.
Yes.
Let's just say you're like, I don't have time to order a split mandrel and I need it right now. It's like, okay, do you have a piece of brass tubing? Or do you have a dowel? Brass tubing, you should always have around the studio. It's great for all kinds of stuff. But check it, Julia. So what I did was I sawed. Yeah. So what you don't want to have to do is, run out and spend a bunch of money on a tool if you've got something that's going to work. And this is a real easy way.
So another good thing about this.
Yeah.
So first of all, she made her own tool. So, kudos, right? Because it's kind of thin, she probably isn't going to push on it as hard as you're going to push on something that's steel.
Yeah. And
so she's less likely to bend it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing
and the diameter is the same size all the way down.
Exactly right. So the nice thing about tubing like this is structurally, it's stronger than a wire.
Right.
Right. So it just makes it structurally stronger. But you do want to make sure you're using tubing that is going to fit in the jaws of your flex shaft.
That's true.
So you just want to, after going to all that work, make sure it's the one that fits in your flex shaft before you start cutting.
Well, if you have a regular number 30 Jacobs chuck handpiece, anything will fit in there.
Not anything.
Well, true, but it'd have to be really big.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get a big piece of tubing, and
That's
you're
true.
like, this is
But,
great, I'll do a
If you have
ring.
the quick change handpiece that has only the 3/32 shank or whatever it is, then you're going to need smaller tubing.
Yeah, but it's nice that you can use just a little bit of tubing, and you can make it the appropriate length,
Right.
so you can squish up on it with your flex shaft.
Right.
Chuck.
Yes.
So that's
Ride
good.
right up on the butt
right.
of the sandpaper with your flex shaft chuck.
Then the other option is just a dowel, like wooden dowels, and you can actually just start with a little bit of glue and glue your strip on there, and let it wind around, and then just peel it off as you go. So just even using something like a dowel works really well.
Double-sided tape would probably hold it on there.
Double-sided tape does. And so exactly right. So I've used that to hold on a little bit of brass wool. So brass wool is really good when you're trying to get into like divoted areas or little sunk down areas, to give you a really nice surface. Now, a lot of people are kind of confused about the bronze wool, and bronze wool is awesome for many reasons. You can get it at most woodworking departments, marine stores, any place that that has stuff to refinish like boats and things like that. And the reason, and it does come in different hardnesses as well. Coarsenesses. Thank you. But the beauty of the bronze wool is that it is generally about the same hardness as your silver and brass and stuff. So it's not going to scratch it up really badly. It's going to help kind of burnish the surface.
Can you put compound on that too? Like rouge or triple E or something?
You wouldn't want to, because it's just going to be metal on metal.
Mudged
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't. And the nice thing about this is it doesn't have any of the oils or soaps that steel wool has on it. So a lot of people don't realize there's oil and soap on some of those pieces of steel, and that stuff transfers onto your metal. So this doesn't have that.
You also don't want little fragments of steel on your piece.
Because
then it goes in the pickle, and then it really will contaminate your pickle.
It will contaminate. It will dissolve, and suddenly all of your pickle is
a mess. Yeah.
Turning things pink. So
we don't want that.
Bronze wool is a great trick, and it's not very expensive. But back to the sanding options for this. I love these little guys. These are little Japanese mounted sanding mandrels. So they're actually, you can see there's like many layers of sandpaper wrapped around these. These come in different grits. They end up being about they come in a pack of 12, and it's like $1 a piece. So you end up with like a pack.
Seems like a lot, but there's so many layers of sandpaper. They last a really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, this one obviously has been ripped down to its core, but now she has 3 different sizes.
Exactly right. And the other thing that's kind of cool is the tip is a little flexible because it sinks down in there just a little bit. So you've got a tip that can actually undercut an edge with this, which is really kind of handy.
I haven't used them for that, but yeah.
It's really kind of nice. And they are color coded on the ends. So this one is like 220, and this one is, I think, 400. So you can get different grits in these going up to, I think, 1,200. So you can get some really nice little finishes with these. But they're glued on the bottom, which makes it nice because they're not flapping around quite as bad.
Yes.
Right.
And they get worn, and then you just rip it off.
Right.
You know, like a sanding stick.
Right. Like a Band-Aid. You just rip it right off.
You just rip it right off.
So, yeah. So, for the polishing part, like I said, I'll sometimes use, in the little split mandrels, sometimes I'll use like the polishing micron paper or use like chamois, but you could use things like felt in there as well. And, but you can easily get on Amazon just a pack of little felt bobs like this, or little fluffy felt bobs like that one. And these are great because they work great for your rouge and your Tripoli and your compounds. I prefer the ones that are a little more earth friendly.
Which the compounds?
The compounds.
Yeah, like the Luxie.
The Luxie compounds.
Yeah.
So I really like the Luxie compounds. They are water soluble. They are plant based. They are.
Well,
they don't have silica in them.
The green one is full on vegan. So Luxie Green.
That's true.
Is plant based fats only.
Yes.
The other ones have, I think, a little bit maybe of some animal fats, so they're not, but they're not like the traditional rouge and Tripoli and Grey Star.
They wash off with water, soap and water. So if you've ever been in that situation where you just can't get that lacquer off your pieces or your hands, and you're using acetone or solvents to remove it, the Luxie stuff is far superior because it just comes off with.
It's a little more expensive, but it's worth it because it takes less time to clean up.
So we've got, little buffing things like that. You can usually pick up like a pack of 100 from Amazon for
I think
$2 or something. Yeah. So those are one of my favorite things. But you can also get the little silicone drums like this. Ooh. And these are usually made by 3M or Advantage, and what's the other one? There's a couple of companies that make little silicone polishing wheels, and they do make some that are mounted drum like this one. So you can get really lovely finishes with the silicone, and the nice thing is you're not having to use any of the compounds with it. You do still want to use, some sort of dust collection when you're doing it. But
you can make one of your own.
You can make one of your own. So, yeah. So
do those have compound already embedded in them? The silicone
they
ones?
usually have, some of them have pumice and some of them have a little bit of an abrasive mounted in the silicone.
Okay. So they have different grits as well.
They have different grits. And they're not very expensive. The ones that are mounted are a studio consumable. So you can always reuse the shank for other stuff, other tools. But I usually find that those are really great and do a beautiful flawless surface and give me a high shine. And the nice thing about some of the silicone wheels like this is they can be abrasive on the metal, but not on stones. So, which can be really helpful.
Yeah, if you're trying to polish the outside of a bezel on a cabochon, you've gone to all this trouble, and now you like slip, and the polishing wheel is like this, and now you have this big scratch across the stone. So anyway, but yeah, so I mean, there are lots of great ways to get in that. I know you've got a couple of tricks. What have you got? So this, again, back to the hand polishing thing.
Yeah.
I got these. This was a set of like 3 of these, and they're a chamois stick, right? I think I got them on Amazon.
And you can get sanding sticks like this too.
Right, and so this is half round. So it's flat on the bottom, and then it's half round here, and it's tapered. And I just use it with compound. So this is actually a little thing of Luxie Orange.
And you want to have a different stick for each compound.
A different stick for each compound.
Mark
See
them.
How it's marked? Luxie Orange. And then you just charge it the same way you would charge it if you were using a power tool. You just rub it on here, and then you can rub the inside of your ring with it.
Yeah.
So and clean it that way. So if you don't have electricity, you're on your boat, or you're at your cabin, or you just you know,
the electricity's out,
or the electricity's out, or you just don't want to have to turn on the motor.
You're making rings in the wild.
You're making rings in the wild, then you can do it by hand.
Or you're at a craft show, you're sitting there trying to clean up the inside of stuff.
Exactly.
These are really handy.
Yeah.
So if you've got something that's got like the Luxie compound and, you know, polishing sticks like this, and you're at a craft show, these are fantastic. Because you can just get in there and clean it up while you're sitting around waiting for people to
buy your
show
stuff
up and see you. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, well, there you go.
I keep them each one in its own little bag so that I don't cross contaminate the compound.
Yeah. So the fresh ones look like
yes,
that.
The fresh one is all clean.
Yeah.
This one is still in its
crinkly paper,
crinkly wrapper. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So I find I usually am using these things for band rings, but even if it's like a round ring, or, you know, trying to get inside some of these things, sometimes can be a little tricky. And even with pieces that are like a twisted wire or something that has some detail, I will switch over to these guys. And these are little radial wheels.
Yes. Oh, those are the 3M bristle discs.
The 3M bristle
Love
discs.
those.
And these are fantastic for getting inside little things like this. And these come with different diameters as well. And you can stack them.
A bunch of different grits.
Yeah, and lots of different grits. And you can stack them to get a different width.
Right.
So these are fantastic when you've got something that's got some texture or some detail on the inside. And
all those little fingers.
Right. So
they get in there.
The mistake a lot of people make with these is they're trying to polish a surface with the radial wheels. These are great for texture. So use it for texture. Use it for the inside of a twisted band or a textured band to get into all those little nooks and crevices. Because
don't they say
that's what that's great for.
That you're supposed to have a minimum of 3 on there?
Yeah, I think so.
They don't work terribly well if you just have 1 or 2. Like, not enough fingers. You need lots of magic fingers.
Yes. So, and the other thing is that you want to make sure they're mounted the correct direction.
Yes. Otherwise, you just rip fingers off.
Right.
That's not good.
So all of the little radial wheels should be going 1 in the same direction, and 2, they should be lapping or licking the surface as they spin, not biting into the surface, but laying down on the surface. So you can kind of look at it and see if they're biting onto the surface, you've got them mounted the wrong way. It should be going with your spin and feel kind of smooth when you do it.
Right.
But yeah, you can add, multiples on there, and this is great for getting inside.
And there are a ton of different grits on those as well.
Yeah,
they come
absolutely.
fairly coarse, and then they go to very fine.
Yeah.
And they don't shed as much compound. I mean, they'll shed entire little bristles sometimes.
Right.
But they don't make as much mess as a lot of the polishing compounds.
Yeah, and I've seen people not know what to do with these, and they do, like you said, it is embedded in these. And hello, Mr. Rish. And there's one of the things I've seen people do, not knowing how to mount them properly, is they'll decide that both directions are okay, and so they'll alternate the directions, and then you end up with this crazy looking thing.
And they're not cheap, so it's like you don't want to, you want to treat them nicely. The little magic fingers.
So just make sure they're going the right direction.
They're all
That's
going
all you
together.
have to do.
It's a group thing.
That's right. So so a little bit of that, a little bit of these. A little bit of a split mandrel, all those things can be really helpful. Sandpaper can be great for cleaning up the inside of rings. And, a little ingenuity around your studio, you can use things like tubing and wood dowels to get that job done. So yeah, if you missed the first part of this, go back and get this. We have a new update on our YouTube channel. So all of the tooltips are now on Little Metal Fox's YouTube channel, so you can see all of them there really easily. So if you missed anything or want to kind of go back and see a particular
you want to
subject,
see it on a bigger screen,
see it on the big screen.
Right.
You can definitely go to YouTube.
You can go to YouTube
and see it there. So there's other bonus content that we're going to be adding to that. So please follow and subscribe and click the bell and
we haven't
all
done
those
a lot
good
of that.
things. So yeah, and we'll be adding more content to that as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. So Julia, what's coming up?
Let's see what is coming up. All right, cuttlefish casting.
Cuttlefish bone casting.
Yes.
So cuttlefish bone casting. If you're casting or want to cast stuff in a small studio, cuttlefish bone casting has been used around the world for millennia.
Literally.
And it's a great way to not only get things cast, but to make repeated images, because you can press things into the cuttlefish. So if you're casting in a small studio or want to do things like cast a simple ring or cast a part or use it as a
you can basically
mold.
Cast yard goods, right? Like you cast a ring shank, and then you have a long flat thing that's a ring shank, and then you can cut it. You can make multiples of that, and then cut it off to the length you want. Do stuff like that.
But it was used for centuries instead of, sort of prior to the invention of the rubber molds. It was used to make molds by pressing objects into it. And so some of the molds would be incredibly complex, but it's a soft material that washes up on beaches all over the world, except North America. So a lot of American...
A dearth of cuttlefish in North America. It's so sad.
Right? And it's so good if you ever have the chance to try cuttlefish.
And you've told me.
So that's going to be a lot of fun.
So that's the last weekend.
Then, coming up on Labor Day weekend, we're going to be doing a series of kind of like a intro intensive weekend with lots of individual workshops that you can sort of pick and choose to see if you need to get like really good at sawing. We've got a sawing one. There's the leveling up your home studio. So if you've got a studio and you're trying to sort of take it to the next level, we've got that. We've got the chemical and safety class that Julia's doing. That's amazing. So if you're a little bit intimidated and you're like, I don't know.
It's kind of a back to school weekend. It's like, kids are going back to school. It's time to learn something new. So we decided to put together a group of classes that would be good for people who are just starting out or people who want to level up their skills. So
absolutely.
Level Up Your Home Studio starts that off. And then we have a safety talk. And then how to use your flex shaft. So you got a little preview of some of the amazing stuff that Jennifer offers in that class.
So I will go through maintenance and feeding and care and repair of the flex shafts, as well as all the amazing things that it can do in different handles and like the hammer hand pieces and all that. So that's
there are lots of different.
It's amazing. It's an incredibly flexible tool.
So feel free, to take the class before you buy a flex shaft, because then you can talk to Jennifer and figure out what is the kind of work that you're going to do and which particular type of flex shaft or type of handpiece is going to best suit the work that you're doing. Yeah. Because not all flex shafts are the same.
Do you need a flex shaft? Can you use a Dremel for what you're doing?
Right.
So we'll talk about all that.
So she will help you figure out what.
Talk about all kinds of little motors and things like that.
And then I'm doing Sawing and Piercing Demystified on that Sunday. And this is really fun because we are running a partnership pair of giveaways with New Concepts. So New Concepts has given us a saw.
One of their nice high-end
They
ones.
never give away saws.
I know.
They're giving us a saw to give away.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the drawing for that on the 3rd of September. And the class is on the 5th of September. You will not have time to get your saw for the class, but you will learn how to use your saw in the class. And then,
also though,
yes,
New Concepts, because we partnered with them, we exchanged the saw for a class.
Right.
So they're giving away this class for sawing. So if you want to go over to make sure you like or that you're following both us and New Concepts.
Right.
And put a comment.
And save the post.
Put a comment in the post and share it with somebody. And that's the best way to get entered into the drawing. And if you're taking the class, you actually get additional drawing.
You get an extra entry for the saw giveaway if you are enrolled in the class. Right. Now, the drawing for the New Concepts drawing for the seat in the class is tomorrow.
Get entered. Quick.
So go get entered. All you have to do is be following us, like and tag, and post a comment
on theirs.
On theirs, right?
Yeah.
On their post.
Yeah.
And the comment is really like what tool you'd like to see them make, what class you'd like to see us offer. Just comment something about the work we're doing.
Yeah, we had several people do that with our other giveaway that we did. Recently, and it was great because people had really good suggestions about classes that they wanted to take, and so we're actually either working on those classes or are looking for somebody to teach those classes, or if you have suggestions of somebody that you'd love to see teach, all those are really helpful because we're in charge. We can do what we want.
We can make these radical decisions.
Right. Yeah.
It is great. It's a wonderful way to sort of take the temperature of interest. I mean, a number of people mentioned torch fired enamels, and we are actively working on getting that set up.
Right.
So getting someone in to do that for you guys.
Right.
So it's coming.
Yeah, and Know Your Torch is one of the other ones that's coming up, and that is on September 6th.
The Monday, yeah.
Yeah, September 6th. And that
Labor Day
is going to be amazing, because if you've got a torch, or you're wanting to change your torch, or you're not sure about regulators, or you want to level up on your torch as well, we're going to talk about that. Some focus on the Smith torch as well.
So it's principally focusing on
the
torch,
on
right?
the Smith little torch, but we will talk about other alternatives and gases.
She knows a lot. So if you have questions about torches, if you're thinking of getting a Smith little torch, this is the class to take to find out about that. And then if the Smith little torch really isn't the right torch for what you want to do, she can explain why and help guide you toward the correct thing.
Absolutely. So if you're looking,
she's amazing.
Well, because if you're working with torches in your studio and you're in an apartment, you can't have a big torch. If you've got a bigger house, you've got proper ventilation, you want to do casting, there are different
and
torches.
A rider on your homeowner's insurance for the compressed gas.
Yes, and so there are all kinds of options for different circumstances and what you're planning on doing. That can make a big difference, because you may want to do really big stuff, and if you've only got a teeny tiny little Smith torch,
doesn't work. You
may have to sort of change up your tips a little bit to get done the things you want to do. But
I should say,
I also work with a hydrogen torch and the Smith little torch and the Prestolite and all the things. So
I didn't want to scare people about the rider for your homeowner's insurance. You can have a torch in your home. Yeah. If you're just using the disposable propane tanks, you don't have to get extra stuff for your insurance.
And we will talk about ventilation and safety as well. And so will she in her safety class. So
production.
Designing for production. Yes. You're out there. You want to be doing more. And if you are doing production of any kind, if you're doing stuff that you want to do for shows, or you're selling stuff in shops, or you've got a whole bunch of markets coming up, and I know a couple people right now that are like having a real good summer and fall, but you want to find the most efficient way to do the thing that you do, to design for efficiency as well as work efficiently, because that's going to give you a better
return, better profit margin. Yeah. Yes. If it takes less time to make the work, and you can charge more for your time, then
make it smarter, not harder.
Make it faster.
Make it faster.
Really what it is,
and
so
be efficient.
Can help you with that.
So I've been working in production casting and bench jewelry for a number of years,
a long time,
and so there's all kinds of tips and tricks that I can share with you on making your pieces more efficiently. And being able to turn, taking one piece that you're making in an hour and be able to turn that into making 12 of those in an hour. Right. So, you may not want to make the same thing over and over and over again, but if you're doing the same thing once in an hour, you have more that you can sell and get out into the world. Even if they're limited editions or working in series, they can each be individual, they can each be unique, but knowing what those production tips are can greatly affect your profits. So it just makes you, especially if you're doing things repeatedly, it makes you better at what you're doing too.
Right.
But
and I love, Jennifer, that what you're offering for this class is not just how to speed it up, but how to design the piece so that you aren't backing yourself into, painting yourself into a corner and making something hard. Yeah. There could be a small modification to the piece
or a tool
the end user, the end customer isn't going to notice or care, but it can make a vast difference to how easy it is and how frustrating it is for you to turn it out. So
absolutely. One of the gals I was talking to recently, she had these, they were circles and they were, sort of bent at an angle, and I was like, oh, so you're using a disc cutter cutting them out? And she goes, no, I'm cutting them all out by hand. It's like, you're cutting out perfect circles by hand?
I mean, if they're huge, but if they're small enough that you can use a disc cutter, you should be using a disc cutter.
Either use a disc cutter or buy circles pre-made. Right. So, anyway, but production. Come join me. I can help you. Yes. I promise. And let's see, AJ Power is going to be teaching jewelry sketching in color. So
yes, this
it's
is the
going to
next
be exciting.
series of drawing classes. So this is going to
Yay.
be great. You're going to learn how to paint stones.
Yeah.
And make them sparkle.
Draw stones and stuff. Yeah. So there's that. And file work is coming up on the 18th again. And that was a big hit last time.
The file work rings.
Yes. Yeah.
They're-
So, so join us for some of those. And like I said, looking at the post for the saw giveaway for us.
Yes.
Go over to
You
New
have to
Concepts.
enter two. You have to enter two things.
Well, you don't have to. You can enter one or the other.
That's true. You don't have to.
don't
But
have
if you
to.
want a chance to win both a class and a saw, you do have to do things in two different places.
Yeah. So go to New Concepts to win the class.
Right.
And under their post for the
class
the saw
giveaway.
and the class giveaway. And under our post, you can win the saw by entering there.
Right.
So just, go in there and win yourself a saw. And we're going to be doing the drawing next week. But New Concepts is doing the drawing for the class tomorrow. So go and do that.
Yes.
And check out the new YouTube post with all of our tool tips.
Yay.
And follow, subscribe, and click the
little
bell.
bell.
Ring the bell. And you'll know when you have a new
Now
one
we
on
can
there.
be those people who are like,
I
click
know.
the bell.
Click the bell. All right. So thanks a lot. And we'll see you guys next week for tool tips. And if you have anything that you'd like to see tool tip wise,
Let us know.
let us know. We'll gladly share information with you if we haven't already done it in the past, and we'll
If
tell
we
you
know
so if we
anything
have.
about it, which, we
Yeah.
probably do.
We know somebody that there's lots of books up here, so so we can check it out. But have a great week. Be safe and have fun. And let us know if you tried some of the homemade sanding bobs that we were talking about, or take a picture and tag us so we can see it, and we'll share it with others. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.